Okay, so we're going to be watching some film today from this Week 4 game against the Rams, but real quick, I just want to make sure that I set the stage, right? Provide a little bit of context so you know the purpose of what it is that we're talking about today. First and foremost, we're going to be talking about Xavien Howard. Obviously, a lot of criticism coming his way from Colts Nation right now. Criticism that I personally believe is completely justified, and I'm going to tell you why. Right now, I'm seeing two things out of Xavien Howard. One, the most obvious side of things, I see a guy athletically that's in over his head. Keep in mind, he's an aging corner. He's 32 years old. This is a position that is notorious for not aging particularly well. And on top of that, before the Colts signed him, he was coming off an 18-month layoff, nearly 700 days not playing a snap in the NFL, an absence that was kickstarted by a significant foot injury. So you combine all of that stuff, and you have a recipe for disaster for a cornerback, particularly given the nature of the position, right? Of course, wide receivers are incredible athletes, but also on defense, by its very nature, it's the reactive side of the football. Like, just think about the language being used on both sides of the ball, right? On offense, to say you're on the offense implies that you're the aggressor, you're on the attack. And then on defense, it's just that. You're defending against said attack. So the offense coming out onto the field knows their play, and the defense has a play called as well. But defensive plays, ultimately, your job is to react accordingly within the context of your assignment on that play, meaning that if you're on the defensive side of the football, you need to be able to make a move on a dime. And right now, Xavien Howard is a guy that is a step behind when they go down the field on him, but on top of that, isn't closing in fast enough when he needs to come down and make a tackle. With all of that said, that's not even my biggest issue, right? It's not just the fall off in athleticism, which at least from a human level is acceptable. Like, that's outside of his control in many ways. Like, if he's just old and washed, I'm not mad at him for that. But there's also too many plays where I see a lack of effort out of Xavien Howard as well. And that you can't have. I see a guy that I'm not entirely sure wants to be out there playing football right now. Like, part of me genuinely believes, and I said this after the game, I'll say it again. I think if the Colts called him into the office and told him he was being relieved of his duties, as opposed to crying and being upset, I think he would look at them and say, well, thank you. Like, what took you so long? Like, I think that's where it's at for Xavien Howard. You know, I think when he was with the Dolphins, the regression had already begun. It already wasn't going his way. And who knows what the thoughts he was having back then were. That's, of course, all speculation. But time will make the heart grow fond. Distance will make the heart grow fond. And I think to some degree, when he came back, he had romanticized what it would be like to come back onto the field. And I think he's been in for a rude awakening. And I think you see it show up on tape. Now, of course, I can make these claims all I want, but what I want to do today is show you what that looks like within the flow of a game as a game progresses. Now, I understand the Colts are short at corner right now. I understand that Xavien Howard knows what Lou Anarumo wants. And because of the inexperience they have behind him due to the injuries to Jalen Jones and Justin Wally, who was projected, I mean, he's a big what if for the Colts this year, is he not? Lou is showing to some degree a level of bias, a level of loyalty towards a guy that he's seen playing at a high level before. And I don't think that's inherently wrong of Lou Anarumo, but at some point, if you're Lou, if you're smooth Lou Gabagoo, the mad scientist himself, I think you have to take a chance with someone else, particularly Jonathan Edwards. I mean, how much worse can he possibly be than Xavien Howard? He's young, he's athletic, he showed out in the preseason. At this point, it can't get much worse. And then after we go over Xavien Howard, despite everything I just said about Lou, which was really kind of a mild criticism at most, I would like to show some appreciation to him as well and why we're so happy he's our defensive coordinator. There were a number of instances throughout the course of the game. We have a couple of clips that put it on display, so we're going to do that. But before we do any of it, you know what it is? I got to introduce the show. My name is Justin. This right here is the Riding the Bench Colts podcast. As always, ask anyone watching and enjoying the show, go ahead, shoot a like. It's going to help me get out to as many Colts fans as humanly possible. Of course, subscribe if you want to be a part of the journey. We're on our way to 4,000 subscribers over here on the YouTube page. We're getting pretty close. So if you keep coming back, enjoying the show, perhaps it's your first day here and you're enjoying what it is that you're hearing, hit that subscribe button, never miss an episode again. Of course, audio listeners, despite the fact that today's really not your day because it's a visual episode, leave a five-star review. Let the people know how much you're enjoying the show. Most importantly, be civil in the comment section. You don't know what the person on the other end of the keyboard is going through today. If you disagree with someone on something, totally fine, but take it as an opportunity to have a discussion. There's no need to hurl name, right? The name call and all that stuff. Ultimately, we're all rooting for the same thing. We're all on the same team, the Indianapolis Colts, right? So there's no need to be divisive in there. Let's just talk, and that's what we do over here. One conversation at a time. We want to make a smarter, more educated, objective Colts fan base. But without further ado, let's get back into the film. And real quick, just allow me to filibuster while I go about sharing my screen and all this stuff. And I can't guarantee that this isn't a little bit rocky, guys, because obviously I'm not exactly, what's the word? Experienced in this type of thing in terms of sharing the screen. So hopefully you could see my mouse. I did make it big for the purposes of the video. And I want to start here with Xavien Howard very early in the first quarter. Now, the Colts are about to drop into a cover 4, and I'll tell you what I mean once everyone lines up here. So the goal of a cover 4, what you don't want is for them to go over the top of your defense, right? So you're going to see Howard drop back, Nick Cross drop back, Cam Bynum drop back, Charvarius Ward drop back, and then you're going to see whoever this is right here, Joe Bacci, he's going to cover the flat, little hook defender over here. And then number 33 is going to be a little hook defender over here. And if you're an offense, what you're going to do here in a perfect world is attack the middle part of the field. Because just think about it. This opens up. Everyone drops back. This is open right here. And the Rams have a play called that attacks that part of the field. Davante Adams comes over the middle on a post. But as they motion Puka Nacua over, they're so confident in this matchup on Xavien Howard based off of what they've seen this year that they just say, fuck it, we ball, right? Just watch how this progresses, okay? So, Puka Nacua gives just a little hezzy to the outside here, just quickly fakes that out. And Xavien Howard, thank goodness for Latu right here, right? Because without him, if this play has another second to develop, this is a touchdown. Because watch as Xavien Howard gets beat just with every step, he's just a little more and a little more and a little more behind. And thank goodness this throw doesn't get hit. But the residue, in my opinion, of this play early in the first quarter can be felt throughout the rest of this game from Xavien Howard, okay? So there's that play right there. And now allow me to go to the next play that I think displays this. And hopefully this thing doesn't glitch out on me because it was a little bit in the test run prior. Okay, so full screen it here. We have, real quickly, Puka Nacua lined up right here in the slot. You have Xavien Howard over here, okay? So, keep in mind, right? Xavien Howard gets beat deep. He knows he's a step behind athletically. So, in that situation, what's he going to do? He's going to overcompensate. Watch. Drops back. Puka Nacua starts to get inside leverage here when this play starts. If Stafford ever snaps the damn thing. All right. So, watch. Hesitation. If you're Xavien Howard, what you would like is for him to be moving laterally here to some degree, but instead, he's stepping back because he's concerned about getting beat over his head, or at least that's what I think, right? That's what I'm seeing here. Gives a whole lot of space to Puka here because, again, he'd rather give up this than it go over his head, but at the same time, this is just way too much space. This is way too much space if you're Xavien Howard, and that ends up being a 14-yard gain. All right, so be it. Now, next, similar thing happening. If I could find the play, hopefully it's easy to find because if not, I'm going to have to do a whole lot of bullshitting before I get to the play. Let's see. Davante Adams, 16 yards. You're going to end up seeing it before me. You're going to be like, Justin. There it is. And this is on that drive at the end of the half, which was the Colts defense was one of their worst drives of the game, if not the worst drive of the game. Take a look at this. Okay? Same type of situation. Xavien Howard out here. Davante Adams over here. Xavien Howard, right off the bat, giving him a lot of space. Maybe this is by design. Maybe it's not. But my point in bringing it up is that you have a lot of wiggle room here. You have a lot of leeway if you're Xavien Howard and you're trying to cover Davante Adams deep, right? So he starts off. He drops. Now, he's lateral right here. Don't hate this. This is how you want him to drop back. Keep in mind, this is still about 3 yards of head start that he has on Davante Adams if Adams cuts this thing up the field. Watch Xavien Howard, again, over what I think is an overcompensation for the fact that he doesn't trust himself down the field. Watch him turn his entire body and start running. Davante Adams, one of the great route runners in football, sees it, says, I'm going to attack a little bit right here because I know he's going to bite because he doesn't want to get beat. And it works like a charm. All this space right here. Now, watch here. We talk about the effort, right? Look at 25. Look at Rodney Thomas. Look at Zaire Franklin. Look at Nick Cross. Notice how they're all further away from Davante Adams than Xavien Howard. Watch as the close-in happens here. Watch Nick Cross make this tackle. How is it that all these guys, defense is taught from like the middle school level to swarm the football? And I understand this tackle's almost done, okay? But how is it that at the end of this, when Xavien Howard starts closest to Davante Adams, by the time this play is called dead, he's the furthest one away? I mean, look at, in my opinion, the lack of effort here from Xavien Howard, the lack of hunger, right? The lack of urgency in his play right here in full speed. Come on, stand straight up. Are you kidding me? Hate that. Another example of the lack of effort from Xavien Howard comes right in the first play of the third quarter in run defense. Oh, I'm pleased with how good this is working right now. Okay. So what the Rams are about to do is they're about to run this thing right over here, okay? Xavien Howard playing this on the outside. Nothing wrong inherently at the beginning of this play, right? Matt Stafford eventually will snap this football. Okay, now, so Xavien Howard, no need to attack yet, right? Because you want to make sure you're protecting yourself against the play action. You have number 88, Jordan Whittington. You don't know exactly what this is. But once he's sure that this is a run, okay, he starts to come down. Now, Xavien Howard ultimately here wants to make sure that Kyren Williams isn't able to cut this thing outside because they just don't have a whole lot of help in that situation. So, okay, fine. He moves out here, forces him inside where they have all of these other defenders, right? But here's my problem. At this juncture, if you're Xavien Howard, and this is my opinion, you want to crash, right? You still want to keep your outside leverage, but you want to crash right here. Now, you could make the argument that you wouldn't want to do that, right? Because I'm not a defensive expert. So to play devil's advocate to myself, if he crashes right here and doesn't make this play, Kyren Williams has nothing but daylight over here, okay? And ultimately you're asking Cam Bynum to make like a touchdown-saving tackle. But okay, if that's the stance that you take, explain what happens after this. Xavien Howard, right there. You're ready to make the tackle, right? Look, his arms are out. He's ready to go wrap up. And instead, what does he do? He lets up. Come on. Come on. Gosh, that's a terrible rep out of Xavien Howard in run defense. If you ask me, it's poor effort. And I don't know if it's he doesn't want to get hit or what it is, but I mean, it doesn't look like he wants to play football on that play. That's for sure, if you ask me. Now, the next play, and probably his worst rep of the game, comes in the fourth quarter. The Colts are up 20-13, okay? And the Rams are driving down the field. This is like the most important drive of the game if you're the Indianapolis Colts. And just watch Xavien Howard here on this play. I mean, you got to be kidding me on this one, okay? So what the Rams do here is they bring Tutu Atwell inside. Why? Because they want to make sure that they isolate Xavien Howard here on the outside. They did this multiple times throughout the course of this game. They wanted to make sure that Howard was on an island, okay? Now watch, number one, he gets beat so bad on the, I mean, this rep is just bad in so many ways. Like, you don't even have to know anything about football to just look and be like, this is fucking terrible, okay? But watch, not only does he get beat horrifically, right? So you get beat this bad right off the bat. I mean, don't you think that you would want to redeem yourself after this, okay? So he gets beat in a way that, I mean, I probably could have covered Davante Adams almost as good as that. But then, watch this. Look at the effort on the tackle. Okay, he goes in there, tries to punch it a little bit, and then says, you know what, never mind. I'm not going to be a part of this play. I'll just stand there and watch as my teammates, Mike Hilton, who was just signed off the street fucking a week ago, and Cam Bynum go in and actually play football, right? Xavien Howard, before this play is even over, I mean, you would have thought the whistle was blown. Look at this. Gosh. To me, it screams, I don't want to be out there. It looks like a guy that isn't entirely sure if he wants to be playing the game of football. That's my personal opinion on Xavien Howard. And I just wanted to show you kind of how that progresses over the course of a game And some examples of why that is as bad as it is. Now, to speak quickly to Jonathan Edwards, I want to show one rep. He only had 3 reps in this game. They were all on third down. And in fairness, this isn't a play against Puka Nacua. It's a play against Tyler Higbee. So here's Jonathan Edwards right here. And here's Tyler Higbee. I think it's 3rd and 6, maybe, if I'm not mistaken. This is a big-time rep out of him. Look at that. Look at how he turns his body, drops his hips, attacks, right? And a great play. Gets the hand in front. That's just one example, right? But we saw him play good all preseason. And this is a guy that's young. He's hungry. He's athletic. All of the things right now that Xavien Howard is not. At least you have the upside with Jonathan Edwards. And at minimum, you just think it couldn't get any worse. And I wouldn't be surprised if after this showing against the Rams, that was the final straw for the Indianapolis Colts. We'll see. Again, it's not like anyone's going to do a great job against guys like Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua. So that is what it is. But I don't know. I think if you're the Colts, you watch the tape. It's not just the lack of athleticism. It's the lack of effort from Xavien Howard that is really going to drive you crazy. So we're going to see how that progresses. But that's what I'm seeing on tape right now. Now let's quickly speak to the Lou Anarumo side of things and why it is that we should be so happy he's our defensive coordinator. So right off the bat, this is the first. Now, listen, this ends up being an 11-yard run, okay? So it doesn't end up working. But from an adjustment standpoint, if you're on Lou Anarumo from a play calling standpoint, I want to show you what he does here because they were having a tough time in the first half against the run. Watch what it is. Oh, this is the wrong play. Hold on. Give me a second. They were both 11-yard runs, so it was kind of hard to tell. Give it to me. Give it to me. First play of the third quarter. So they're having a tough time stopping the run in the first half. So Lou, to start the second half, comes out and says, okay, as opposed to going with what I would normally do, which is 2 defensive tackles and 2 defensive ends, right? He puts in 3 defensive tackles on this play. Now, the Rams, watch, and I'm going to show it to you here. So the Rams are strong to the right, okay? This is their strong side. You have Grover Stewart, you have Neville Gallimore, and they're taking advantage of Buckner's athleticism. What a football player he is, right? So you have 3 defensive tackles as opposed to 2 defensive tackles in on this play. You have your run-stopping safety up here in the box. And then, of course, Zaire Franklin, as he should be, is shading to the strong side. And what do I mean when I say strong side? Well, by the time this motion happens, inside the numbers, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players if you're the Rams. So what the Colts are trying to do is, listen, and it doesn't work out, okay, because this is ultimately the play where Xavien Howard makes that bad effort. Not that it's all his fault that this play doesn't happen. But the reason I'm bringing this up is not because it worked, but because it is an adjustment from Lou Anarumo, something I'm not sure we saw from him this year, and is a better look, right? Like if you're trying to stop the run conceptually, bringing in 3 defensive tackles and bringing your run-stopping safety, your dog and Nick Cross into the box, I like that from a play-calling perspective, and I wouldn't be surprised to see them pull this out a little bit more this year, particularly Ashton Genty just went off, finally, for Lord knows how many yards, and they play the Raiders this week. Wouldn't be surprised to see them come out and do something like this. They ran something similar to this for the rest of the drive. We don't need to get into it all, but I thought it was a good adjustment by Lou Anarumo. Whether or not it worked, kind of separate from the point, I think more often than not, you're probably going to win on that. That's just my guess. I mean, look how good of a running back Kyren Williams is right here. Incredible. And this is the play. I mean, look what he does to Cam Bynum here. It's just brutal, honestly. And Cam Bynum has been great this year, but I mean, gosh, any points at him, whatever. What are you going to do about that? And another great play call here from Lou Anarumo that I want to share. Ultimately, before wrapping this thing up, here you have Zaire Franklin over center, okay? We all know Zaire Franklin. We know what he does, right? So if Zaire Franklin is lined up like this, and you can't see it right here, he has one foot in front of the other. He's ready to rush, right? If you're the Rams and you're Matt Stafford, who we said coming into this week, it was going to be hard to trick him, right? If you're right here, there's a high percentage that Zaire Franklin's coming in on this play. Of course, you have to watch for him dropping back. But once he engages with this center, when this ball is snapped, if you're Matt Stafford, there ain't no way in hell, right? So you have Cam Bynum coming down. You have Xavien Howard, who you've been cooking all day. And you have Zaire Franklin coming in here on your center. This is an easy decision for Matt Stafford to come over and try to take this drag, this slant over here. And what does Zaire Franklin do on a hesitation after a second or so of engaging? Ends up dropping back. There is no scenario if you're Matt Stafford that you expect Zaire Franklin to drop back with the way this thing progresses. Like, sure, pre-snap, you can account for that. But once he engages, man, once he comes in, your scouting report would say 100% of the time, basically, Zaire Franklin isn't going to drop back, and they fool Stafford here. So this is some of the things right here, and people say it's a dropped interception. I mean, that's a tough catch for a linebacker. What do you want from him? He's not Fred Warner, right? I mean, that's an incredibly difficult catch. He's moving one way, he's trying to catch it one hand the other way. This right here is a product. You're taking a guy in Zaire Franklin who pass coverage is not his strength, and you're putting him in a position to make a play through the air on third down. This is just good stuff out of Lou Anarumo, right? So those are some of the things I wanted to show today, and that's really all of it. Hopefully you got some value out of that. Hopefully you enjoyed that. But without further ado, my name is Justin. This right here is the Ride the Bench Colts podcast. Like, subscribe if you have not yet. And as always, go Colts.